Hello, Facebook family. I hope everyone is well and have recovered from the holidays. I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. I had a chance to reflect on this Thanksgiving, just how much and how important it is to have family like pour into you. You know, before the pandemic, I think this was something that I kind of just took for granted. In that every so often I would get together with family, but this time it really meant something different for me because I hadn't seen everyone in a long time, and also because of what I do, you know, I see families just torn apart every day, and it's just so nice to be around people who love you for who you are, you know, not what you do. And you know, when people love you unconditionally and have no strings attached, it really helps to validate you and lift you up. At least that's how it feels for me. So I was so grateful to be able to spend time with family and friends, and then those who I couldn't actually be with physically, I was able to connect with on the phone and just catch up with some people. So that's one of the things I think I am grateful for, most grateful for Thanksgiving, because it's the one time I really get to do that. We do celebrate Christmas, but that's different for me because for me, there's like expectations attached to Christmas. I don't know if it's the case for you guys, but you know, with all the gifts and traveling, we travel more for Christmas than we do for Thanksgiving. And it's just a lot more going on. And sometimes it just feels more stressful than it needs to be. So, you know, Thanksgiving was just nice. I stayed home. Family came to us. We got to see everyone again, and I was really, really grateful. So I hope it's that way for you guys. I hope that at least, you know, you all have someone in your life who you feel pours into you and lifts you up by just being around them, you know, because we all really, really need that. I didn't realize how much I needed that because, you know, as I said, being around families all the time, and as much as I try to help them, it still gets to me, you know. There's a lot of people who have a lot of like deep family issues, and you know, my goal is not just to help them as an attorney, but just I want people to leave their experience with me better than they came. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way, but just either with more information, more knowledgeable, more education, feel like they have more resources, and just feel like they have someone in their corner and someone they can call on when they need help, when they have a family situation. So that's my goal, you know, whenever I have a new client or even on my consultations. I just want to make sure that that person is more informed after the call than when they were when they got on the call. So doing that sometimes, though, it definitely, you know, I see a lot of things that I just don't wish would happen to anyone. And I have to have a way to be able to process that so that I can still be effective for my clients. And being around friends and family, especially this Thanksgiving, it kind of did that for me. I just feel like my cup is full. So now I'm here and I'm ready to just kind of get back and continue to serve my clients in the best way that I can. And in doing that, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is psychological parent. This is an issue that not a lot of people really understand. I've actually had clients get really upset with me because of this issue. And what that is essentially when a child is around someone who almost replaces a parent. And that could be another relative, like a grandparent or an aunt, or in some cases, in one case that I've had, it was actually a girlfriend or a fiance. And if the child is around them long enough so that it appears that that person has taken over the role as parent, then there could be a psychological bond to the point that that child sees that person as a parent. And if that's the case, if that is determined by a court, that that person is a psychological parent, then that person may have rights, at least rights to visitation. Depending on the nature of the case and the situation, they could get some of the rights that a parent would otherwise get. So I feel like that's something that people really don't know enough about, and are in situations right now that where the other person in their child's life may qualify as a psychological parent. So technically, I just want to go over with you what that really means. Um, so for legal purposes, there are four prongs or four things that have to exist before a court can determine that someone is a psychological parent. The first one is that the legal parent, and I'm reading this because I don't want to get it wrong, okay? The legal parent must consent to and foster the relationship between the third party and the child. So in a case where, you have two people who are dating, they're not married, they're dating, they're living together, and that one of the parties has a child that lives with them. If that other person, let's say it's the boyfriend, his girlfriend moves in with her daughter, and if that child begins to see that boyfriend as dad, and mom allows that relationship and fosters that relationship, that's then that first prong is met. If mom lets the boyfriend take the daughter to school, if the boyfriend attends parent teacher conferences, if the boyfriend provides for the daughter, feeds her, buys her clothes, things like that, takes her on vacation, those are things that a parent would otherwise do. So that's the first prong. That's how you satisfy that. The second prong is the third party must have lived with the child. So in the example I just gave, if everyone's living together, that certainly satisfies that. The third prong is that the third party must perform parental functions for the child to a significant degree. So maybe it's not enough to just say be there every day with her, and just maybe feed her 3 meals a day, but really maybe takes care of her, takes her to the doctors, arranges her doctor's appointments, attends parent-teacher conferences, stays home with the child when she's sick, like significant functions that a parent would otherwise have. If that third party is performing them, then that may qualify that person to be a psychological parent. Now, as you can see, this is really going to be determined on a case-by-case basis. So each case, the judge is going to look at exactly what that relationship was like and what that third party did to fulfill a parental role. So I sometimes hesitate to give examples because I don't want you to interpret them as the exact situation that has to exist, but it's definitely going to be on a case-by-case basis. But one of the more important things is actually the fourth prong, which is a parent-child bond must be forged. Now, this is where oftentimes an expert needs to step in and say, yes, a bond exists. So oftentimes what that looks like is the parties will go before a psychologist, and that psychologist will conduct what's called a bonding evaluation. And they will be looking at how that third party and that child interact with one another in order to determine whether or not that bond actually exists. Oftentimes, in most of the cases that I've had, this is the one thing that's been missing. So if it's missing and I'm the person who wants to show that this bond does exist, then we will go ahead and try to get that bonding evaluation done. But if I'm on the other side and that evaluation hasn't been done, then that may be the one way that we could show that that person is not the actual psychological parent. So these types of cases are not easy. They're certainly not easy for people to accept that someone, for instance, in the example I gave for this fiance or boyfriend and girlfriend situation, when the two parties break up, that person may have a right to ask for parenting time at least, because they form this bond with the child. And remember, the court's always going to do what's in the best interest of the child. So if the court finds that this bond exists, that this person has fulfilled all four prongs, then it's going to grant some sort of parenting time. So that may have an impact on the parent's life with their child. So for instance, if that parent wants to move out of state or wants to do something with the child where that parenting time for the other party may interfere with that, that's something to definitely think about. So knowing this in advance is just really important for people to think about this when they enter into relationships with other people. I'm always, just as a mom, I'm always cautious about who I have my children around. But knowing that the relationship I form with someone else, to the point where I move in with them and they establish a relationship with my child, and they may then have rights to spend time with my child regardless of the status of our relationship, I think is really impactful. It's something that I think we all should think about, when we enter into relationships with people and we begin to move in and we begin to introduce our children to people and move them in. So I hope this helps. I know that this is not always something easy to understand. These cases are not always easy for the court to decide, but again, the decision is usually made on a case-by-case basis, and it can be pretty expensive, especially if you do have to involve an expert. And sometimes it can become a battle of the experts. The parent may need to hire an expert as well as the third party. So that's why I just feel it's so important for us to be educated about these aspects of family law, because there are some things that we wouldn't normally expect, but we can really get caught up in later on, and will have a definite impact on our family and our family's lives. So I hope this was helpful to all of you. Again, I'm always here if you need help, if you need any advice. I promise I'm doing my best to go live every Wednesday just to give you some tips like this and to chat with you about some things that I think are really relevant to your lives and are really important. Feel free to slide into my DM, as they say, and let me know what other things you want to hear about. If you want to set up a consultation, you need to talk to me, I'm definitely here for it. All right. Like I said, to me, families are first. We put kids first. But in order to do that, parents have to be educated. And I see that as an important role for me as a family law attorney. So I wish you all well. Remember, enjoy your loved ones. Let them know that you appreciate them so that they can appreciate you. Take care.